we wanted to welcome all the alumni and our guests this evening. On behalf of the Office of UH Alumni Relations, we welcome you to the history of surfing. And we hope to highlight our talented alumni, award-winning faculty, and create unique experiences. And I cannot forget Laura Wood, who is seated up here in front, who worked so hard at coordinating this event for you this evening, and she is our Associate Director of Alumni Relations Special Events. At this time, I'd like to call upon Provost Michael Bruno, who will introduce you to tonight's speakers.
Thank you, Donna and Laura and the team. Aloha. Aloha. Thank you. John Clark and Ian Akahi Masterson are going to speak tonight on the history of surfing in Hawaii. John Clark was born and raised in Hawaii, started surfing in 1954 when he was 8 years old, and has been a lifelong surfer ever since. He's a proud graduate of UH, where he received his associate's degree in fire science from Honolulu Community College, a bachelor's in Hawaiian studies, and a master's degree in public administration. John was a lifeguard at Sandy Beach, pretty impressive in itself, and a member of the Honolulu Fire Department, rising up to be the deputy chief of the Honolulu Fire Department. He is, of course, well known as the author of 10 books on Hawaii's beaches, surf spots, and shoreline place names. John.
I'm going to talk about traditional Hawaiian surf sports. And before I launch off into that, I need to back up to my introduction from Michael. And Michael kind of tossed a hand grenade out into the audience there, and it was Pray for Sex. Do you all remember that? Okay. Who knows where Pray for Sex Beach is? I see some hands go up out there. Okay, so anyway, I spent the last 40 plus years collecting place names, specifically about beaches and surf spots, and trying to learn the mo'olelo, the stories that go with them. So here's the story behind Pray for Sex, which, by the way, is the one shoreline place name that I get asked more about than any other. And it's really simple. Back in the 1960s, the California surfers came out with a real simple saying, which was just pray for surf. And here locally, somebody went out to a big rock on Makua Beach. It actually has a Hawaiian name, Pohaku Kulailai. And they spray painted, instead of pray for surf, they spray painted pray for sex on that rock. And that was in the 1960s. And here we are in 2019, and that rock and that beach are still known as Pray for Sex. Okay, now you all know the story, right? All right. Okay, Hawaiian surfing traditions from the past. Michael also mentioned that I've written 10 books about Hawaii's beaches, surf spots, and shoreline place names. This book was number 8. And this book represented a really big change for me researching. Up until this point, I've been using all English sources for the 7 books that preceded this one. But back in 2005, somebody told me about the Hawaiian language newspapers. They told me that the newspapers were online and that they were word searchable. So I have a degree in Hawaiian studies. I have a little background in the language. So I went to the website, and the first word I typed in to see what would come up was He'enalu surfing. 800 hits. 800 hits just for the word, Hawaiian word surfing. And this was coming out of all of these Hawaiian language newspapers that started in 1834, and they ran for over 100 years till 1948. When I saw those 800 hits, I started going through them, and I realized immediately that this was source material, original source material for a book. So I spent about 3 years putting this all together. I'm not an exceptional translator at all, so I had someone else translate for me. Kyle Metcalf was a Hawaiian language instructor here at the university for quite a while, and now he's moved on to other things. So anyway, I would just go online, copy the articles I wanted translated, and then I'd just shoot them by email to Kyle. And we went back and forth for 3 years, and I put it all together, and finally came out with Hawaiian Surfing Traditions from the Past. Okay, so while Kyle and I are going through this process, I'm going through the Hawaiian language newspapers, culling out these articles that I want to translated, and as I started putting them all together into a book, into a manuscript, it kind of dawned on me that I was looking at 6 different surf sports that Native Hawaiians did, 6. So all of you here in the audience right now, you probably all surfers, or you probably wouldn't be here if you're not connected to the ocean and surfing in some way. But think of that, just kind of think it over for a second and see if you can come up with 6 surf sports that Native Hawaiians did. Okay, here's the first one. And for those of you that have background in Hawaiian language, or even if you don't, kind of keep track of the words, the names for the surf sports as we go through them. Heinalu is board surfing, surfing with surfboards, but we tend to use that as a generic name, as a very general name for all of the surf sports that Hawaiians did. But Hawaiians had their own names. They had their own names for each of an individual sport. So just kind of keep track of that as we run through these. Anybody recognize who's in this photo? How about the guy on the right? Eddie Aikau, that's right. The guy on the left, you probably don't recognize him, but that's Fred Hemmings. So this was taken back in the 1970s. They both happened to be out at Waimea. They both happened to have red surfboards. Fred calls this the Freddie and Eddie photo. Okay, we've already seen some of the Bishop Museum boards. Ian showed them in his presentation. But anyway, these are Papaolo, the 2 big boards on your right. I'm 6 feet tall, so how tall do you think those boards are? 12 feet? How about the one on the right, 18 feet? Can you guys imagine surfing on a board like that? I can't either. But anyway, Ian got into them. So Ian took a mango tree on your left and a Norfolk pine tree on your right, and he turned them into Olo surfboards, brought them down to Waikīkī for a video that we were working on for Hawaiian Airlines. So if any of you want to make a surfboard out of a tree trunk, get a hold of Ian. Okay, Ian already used this slide, or one similar to it, but the boards up in front, those 5 boards there, the tallest one on your left is a kiko'o. These are different styles of traditional boards. The 3 in the middle are a laia, and the smaller one on the end there is a paipo board, which actually the Hawaiians call paipo'o, but we'll get into that in a little. Waikīkī Beach. This photo was taken in the 1890s. This is a very popular photo. What's he wearing? A malo, exactly. So this is surfwear. This is native Hawaiian surfwear for male surfers. The women would wear a pa'u, a sarong, and both the pa'u and the malo were of course made out of kapa. And they waterproofed them. The Hawaiians waterproofed their tapa, their kapa, for going in the ocean, whether it was for surfing, paddling a canoe, fishing, whatever they happened to be doing. That particular board I really liked. It really appealed to me. So you're going to see in a couple of slides going down the road here that I made a couple of boards modeled exactly after this one. 1890s. Whoops, I'm a little too fast here. Okay, that's Duke Kahanamoku on the very last photo that was taken of him surfing, 1954. And the Duke is riding a redwood board, but it's a wood board. He never made the transition from wood to foam. And he tried a foam board one time. I picked this up in an interview from him, and he called it a tricky board because it was so lightweight and just too squirrely for him. So he stayed with his redwood boards all the way. He was 64 in this photo. So here's where the change happens, 1950s. Everybody who's non-Hawaiian, as soon as they learn how to surf, they're trying to lighten up the surfboards. They're making them out of all different kinds of wood initially, besides koa, which is a very dense and heavy wood. And finally we get around in the 1950s to foam and fiberglass, which is basically what we're all riding now. So 1954, Waikiki Beach, the foam boards are here, and this spells the end of wooden surfboards pretty much. Okay, now we're moving on to our second surf sport, traditional surf sport, Pakaka Nalu, outrigger canoe surfing. And Pakaka means to skim. Nalu, of course, is a wave, so the Hawaiians are saying that when you're canoe surfing, you're skimming over the surface of the water. This is a canoe shot that was taken in the 1950s. Here's one that was just taken this past year. And this is usually what we think of nowadays as canoe surfing, the canoe rides that the commercial beach services in Waikiki put together and give out. Now, I always thought that canoe surfing got its start probably in the early 1900s. About when the Moana Hotel was built. And that was in 1901 on Waikiki Beach. But as I researched and I put Pakaka Nalu into the Hawaiian language newspapers and even the early English language newspapers, I found this. So this is from the Pacific Commercial Advertiser, May 11th, 1897. There's a group of native Hawaiians on Waikiki Beach that get together and they form the Hui Pakaka Nalu of Waikiki. They get a manager. His name is Diamond, down at the bottom there, W.W. William Diamond. And Diamond has an office in downtown. He's got telephones. So anybody that wants to go on a canoe ride, they phone him up. He gets a hold of the guys in Waikiki and they go surfing. Canoe surfing. So I believe this is the very first beach concession on Waikiki Beach. So this is 1897, and these guys, Hui Pakaka Nalu, they go right up until the big hotels start coming on board. The Moana again in 1901, the Halekulani in 1917, the Royal in 1927, and everybody starts getting into the mix. And Hui Pakaka Nalu fades away. But anyway, for you surf historians out there, this precedes all of the hotels, the Outrigger Canoe Club, Hui Nalu, everybody else that came in the early 1900s. Canoe surfing, besides commercial canoe surfing, people still get into it nowadays just on their own. This is a first break day at Waikiki. Oops. This is a spot called Castles. Castles is straight out from the natatorium. And these are 22-foot fiberglass canoes that Fred Hemmings is steering here, actually. Fred is really into canoe surfing. This spot, I don't think anybody would guess. Anybody have any idea in the world where this spot was, or this shot was taken? Avalanche, somebody nailed it back there. This is North Shore. This is canoe surfing, outrigger canoe surfing on the North Shore. The guy steering the canoe is Brian Keaulana, Buffalo's son. And the three guys in front are from a TV series that was called Baywatch. So anyway, I see some of you recognize Baywatch, right? Okay. So anyway, Baywatch was headquartered right at Haleiwa Beach Park. right where the Kalili Surf Center is. And they did all their filming out there, based right there at the surf center. So one day, Brian, who's in charge of water safety for the, he tells a couple of the guys from Baywatch, hey, you guys want to go for a canoe ride? And he takes them out to Avalanche. So anyway, when I got this photo, I asked the photographer, did they make the wave? The photographer said, yes, they did. So anyway, Kahanamoku, canoe surfing. Okay, Kahanamoku, body surfing. Kaha for body surfing, Kahanamoku in body surfing is actually a shortened term for kikaha, which means to glide. And manu kikaha, for example, is a gliding bird. So Kahanamoku, the Hawaiians are saying that you're gliding across the face of the wave. So again, a very different term for body surfing. This guy was a beach boy in the 1950s in Waikīkī. His nickname was Purple. Anyway, he was from Ni'ihau, and he's demonstrating what traditional Hawaiian body surfing looked like. Your arms are tight to your side, and you're in a very compact, streamlined position as you come across the wave. Now, do we body surf like this today? No, we don't, not at all. But anyway, so this is the traditional Kahanamoku as practiced by Hawaiians. This particular shot is Queens. This is the surf spot Queens in Waikīkī. Does that look a little more like what we do today? Where's this surf spot? Panics, exactly right. And if you look carefully, you can see he's got a handboard on his down hand. So anyway, this is the way most people body surf now. If you're going right, you put your right hand down and your left hand back. If you're going left, just the opposite, left hand down, right hand back. Where's this? Sandy Beach. We all know it well, right? She's an excellent body surfer. She's won some of the contests out there. And you can see that she's coming into a very, very shallow shore break here. Who's that? That's our former president, Barack Obama. Does he? Yeah, that's, did you guys hear that? Up here? That's why I voted for him. So what? Does he know what he's doing? Of course he does. He's got his right hand out, he's got his left hand back, and he's driving through the shore break at Sandy Beach. Now, he did this, by the way, before he was elected president. And I don't think the Secret Service let him go body surfing at Sandy Beach again once he was president. Anyway, Barack Obama, pretty cool shot. Okay, I threw this one in just for fun. Now you can see that there's two bodyboarders actually in this photo. And this shot was taken out at Keawa Beach Park out in the Makaha area. So bodyboarder on the left, bodyboarder on the right. But can you folks see the body surfer? Right under the lip of the wave. That's a black-tipped shark. How many of you surfers out here have seen sharks surfing waves? I see a bunch of hands. Me too. Over the years that I've been surfing, I've seen a lot of sharks riding waves. Sharks are just like porpoise. They like to surf too. Okay, Pai Po'o. P-A-E and then Po'o. This particular shot was taken in 1910. This is a spot called Kawa, which is in Ka'u on the Big Island, Hawaii Island. Anyway, Pai in Hawaiian means to land, means to come ashore. You catch a wave and you go towards the shore. And Po'o is your head. So what the phrase is saying, Pai Po'o, it's saying that you're coming in head first, you're making a head first landing on shore. The little boards that they rode to do Pai Po'o were Popup Pipe. And here's another shot. And you'll see again on 1910, the guy on the right. Can you guys see that he's wearing a malo? Okay, this is 1910 now. Supposedly we're all wearing, whatever the approved swimwear was, but people are still in malos here on Hawaii Island. And you can see the small Popup Pipe or the Pipe boards with these two riders. That's South Point in the background. Anybody recognize this guy? Wally Forsyth. Wally Forsyth is one of our surfing legends. He passed away a little while back, but anyway, Wally in the 1950s really got into Paipo'o. He got into Paipo boards. So this is a board that he made out of balsa with redwood stringers. And he put that little half moon shaped piece on the front of the board. Wally put these decals, he had these decals made on the mainland, and he put these decals on all of the boards he made. He made about 100 of them over the years. And he didn't know that pi was actually P-A-E because nobody had spelled it before. He only was going by how it sounded to his ear. So this is where we get Paipo, the term that we all use nowadays for these boards. Paipo board is from Wally's decals. Make sense? Yeah. All right, right on. This is Wally at Makaha in 1956. Now you can see what that little half moon piece on the front of the board is for. It's to brace his Churchill fin. So this little board, this little twin fin board that Wally's riding is only 4 feet long, 48 inches long. And this is 1950s. When did the short boards come into the big picture? Yeah, early 70s, 68, 69, 70, right around there. Is he ahead of his time? Of course he is. So this is Paipo'o. Now, remember that board in Waikīkī? That's the kind of Paipo board that I wanted to ride, a traditional Hawaiian board as opposed to the more modern ones. So I had a friend of mine help me make a couple of boards. The one on the right is Willy Willy with koa, 2 surfboard woods. And the one on the left is redwood with pine stringers. I wanted to know what it was like to ride a traditional board since I was doing all of this research on Native Hawaiian surfing. So this is a shot of me out at Publix on one of the boards. And I found out that they rode small waves really well. And they also went through the reef really well. Publix, you all know Publix? Publix is a super reefy spot, especially at low tide. And these boards go right through the reef because they don't have any fins on them. You don't have to worry about snapping fins. And you can just kind of weave your way through the coral heads, even at low tide. So I found out that they also the boards are good on bigger waves too. My body surfing style, my personal body surfing style is to put both arms out. And I use both arms out to maneuver on the wave. And I found that you can also body surf the style of Paipo board that was traditional. The boards work good on bigger days too. I happened to be out at Publix one day on a pretty good sized day. And this drone came by flying overhead. So he shot a couple of photos of me. This was, he caught me taking off on this wave, and that was the end of the wave. You can see the reef there, and that's me right at the end of the white water. Okay, so I found out that Hawaiians could surf these smaller body boards, Paipo boards, from small waves to super big ones. He'epu'ewai, river surfing. This is the surf sport that really blew me away when I ran across this. I couldn't believe that Native Hawaiians actually river surfed. This wave that you're looking at right now isn't in the ocean, it's in Waimea River. And that's a stationary wave, within the river. So hey, you guys got that, right? Hey is slide, it means to slide. Hey nalo is wave sliding. Pu'e is agitated. One of the meanings of pu'e is agitated. And why, it's important that we see that it's a W there, not a K, because Y is freshwater, as opposed to Kai, saltwater. So Heepuiwa is saying that you're surfing the agitated fresh water, which is basically a flash-flooding river. So there's the ocean outside. Here's a couple of guys catching stationary waves right where the river is emptying into the ocean. Here's where it all starts. Waimea River, there's heavy rain in the mountains. The river fills up and it comes up right to the berm, right at the edge of the beach. And then the boys come down with their shovels. They want to help it along, dig some holes, and they get the river running. Now, does everybody appreciate this? No. How come? Brown water, right? So they're emptying the river, all of that brown water into Waimea Bay. And brown water, of course, does attract sharks. But anyway, you can see how calm it is out there. There's boats anchored, and here's the river starting to run. Oops. Somebody trying to get a ride here. So what the river surfers do is they come down and just stand on either side of the river pouring into the bay. And as the stationary waves form, they just dive into them. The rides are very short, not even a minute, and then they just wash out into the ocean. Have any of you river surfed? Anybody here? Oh, a couple of hands. Very good. Now you can see that the river is really running. I mean, it's just smoking right here. The guy on the left, what's he doing? What's he extending on his arm? He's taking a picture, exactly right. So surf photography 101 here, made easy. And if you look, you can see that there's a couple of people washed out into the bay. Yeah, you can see the edge of the sand right here, and this guy's making a hard turn, cutting back into the wave. Lifeguard up on top. The lifeguards come down and watch this, make sure nobody gets hurt, gets trapped. And this guy's actually on a shortboard. So he's river surfing, standing on a surfboard. And the bay is out behind him, and he's surfing upriver. Pretty great stuff, huh? Waimea Bay is the best place to river surf in the Hawaiian Islands. I found in the Hawaiian language newspapers that Hawaiians actually river surfed on 4 islands. So besides Oahu, where we are right now, they surfed on Kauai, they surfed on Maui, and they also surfed on Hawaii Island. River surfed. Okay, sand sliding. You got the hay again, sliding. One is sand, so sand sliding. What do we call it? What do we call it today? Do we call it sand sliding? Skimboarding, yeah, we call it skimming. So this is just somebody skimming on a receding wave at Waikīkī. And right now, we're going to see some 1930s footage. These are screenshots that I took off of some 1930s footage of skimming in Waikīkī. Now, it's a little blurry, but you can see that there's 3 people. The photographer actually caught 3 different types of skimming, sand sliding on Waikīkī Beach. So the guy on the right, the guy in the middle, and the guy on the left. The guy on the right is going to do traditional Hawaiian skimming, sand sliding. And that's with nothing but his body. So what he's going to do, what he's starting to do right now, is he's running after that receding wave, but instead of dropping a skimboard and hopping on it, he's going to skim on his chest. So what you do, what all of you can do this weekend, is you run after that skimming wave, and you're going to throw your arms out in front of you, like this. Okay, throw your arms out in front of you, and then when you come down on your arms, you're going to give a really hard push, and you're going to launch yourself chest first into that receding wave, and you're just going to skim right across the beach. Now what happens if you do it wrong and you miss? You're gonna come to a screeching halt, right? Okay, so anyway, these are screenshots. The guy on the right isn't gonna be in the frames too long, so just keep an eye on him. He's throwing his arms down, putting them on the sand, launching onto his chest, and skimming. He's skimming on his chest at Waikīkī Beach. Pretty neat stuff, huh? Okay, that's traditional he'eone, that's traditional skimming, sand sliding. And he's gonna be gone out of the picture here in just a second. And he's gone. Okay, the guy on the left is skimming on a, excuse me. He's skimming on a paddleboard, just like a skimboard. The guy in the middle, what's he skimming on? Belly bag. Somebody got it. Okay, when the big hotels come to Waikīkī, again the Moana in 1901, the Royal in 1927, the Beach Boys down there figure out really quick that if you take a pillowcase or a mattress cover and catch air in it, you can skim with it. So that's what this is. This is a mattress cover or it's a super big pillowcase. And here he comes, 1930s. Oh, that was the last one. He's coming right at us out of the pillowcase. Now we're gonna get back to this in just a second, okay? So just hang on. Okay, here's where skimming went as it progressed. This shot was taken at Sandy Beach in the 1980s. And the second guy from the right, Johnny Alford, got into a commercial production of skimboards. So what they were doing, besides just skimming across the sand, they started using the waves, the shore break at Sandy Beach, as a ramp, just like you would for a skateboard ramp or a snowboard ramp, right? So you skim across the sand, you go right up the face of that breaking wave. Right when you hit the top, you make a turn and you surf the wave back down. So what happened here? Okay, Johnny Alfred's getting some air, exactly right. So anyway, what he did, he went up the face of the wave, but instead of making that turn on the top to drop back down in the shore break, he just bailed off the board and he did a backflip. And he was famous for that. This is 1980 Sandy Beach. So the board is lost somewhere there in the shore break, right? And that's Johnny Alfred doing his backflip. There's a lot of girls that skimboard too. She's really good. They actually have a circuit where they do contests here and on Maui. So if you go online and look for skimboarding dogs, you're gonna find this dog. And this dog also likes to ride two other kinds of boards. What do you think? Skateboard? Anybody? No, not surfboard. Snowboard. So this dog's not only skimboards, but snowboards and skateboards too. You can train your dog to do this, right? Right on. Okay, we're gonna get back to the belly bags. The guy on the left, Al Santos, is from Waianae. He lives up in Volcano on the Big Island right now. But anyway, Al was the master. He was just absolutely the grandmaster of bag riding. In fact, he called himself the bag man. He had his wife make him custom pillowcases. That's why that thing is so big. And he's already caught air in it and taught the guy on his right how to do the same thing. So this was a bag riding lesson here. Now, keep that bag in mind, the color, and here it is in action. So this is Al Santos catching a shore break wave at Sandy Beach And that's his son Kai on the bodyboard right under him. So Al not only skimmed across the beach on his belly bag, but he actually went out in the surf and caught waves with his bag too. Pretty good stuff, huh? So for all of you here that don't have a surfboard, you all have pillowcases, right? There you go. Save yourself $700. Okay, in the 1950s, there was a surfing movie made called Red Hot Blue. And the photographer, Kurt Mastalka, who's still alive, by the way, he caught Al at Makaha, and he took some footage of Al riding waves on his bag at Makaha. So anyway, I did some screenshots out of that movie, and we're gonna run through them right now. So what's he doing right now? He's catching air in the bag. So right now he's gonna wrap the top of the bag off. He's caught the air in there. He's gonna wrap the top of the bag and hold it with one hand. And then he's gonna grab the other end of the bag with his other hand. And he's gonna start running. So he's gonna drop the bag on the sand and skim. And there he goes. Now what happens if you lean too far forward? Right, face first into the sand, right? This is a lot harder than it looks, and Al is the absolute master of this. And here's Al paddling on with the boys. So he's heading out to Makaha right now, and all of the screenshots that you're gonna see after this are Al on one wave, okay? Keep that in mind. This is all one wave of him riding. Okay, he's caught the wave. By the way, what happens if he lets go of the hand that's holding the open end? He just sinks, right? Exactly. So anyway, you gotta hold tight. And Al always told me, it's easy to catch air if you lose it out in the ocean, but the hardest thing in the ocean was to get back up on the bag. Because the bag is inflated, it's full of air, and you're not standing on land, right? You're in the water. Anyway, okay, here we go on Al, riding Makaha. Churchill fins. Okay, he's maneuvering. I don't know if you guys are figuring this out. He's maneuvering on that bag. He's going left, he's going right. He's doing 360s, he's gonna do spins. And he never lets go of that air. It stays inflated. It stays inflated all the way. 360. Riding sideways, doing a head dip. And he's still riding now, he's not falling off, he's riding. And this is Al finally coming up on the beach at Makaha. So anyway, this slide is actually bringing me to the end of my slide presentation and the 6 different sports that Native Hawaiians did. And I wanted to just end on this. This is a screenshot, of course, Diamond Head in the background. It was taken by a drone. But anyway, this is overlooking Tongs. You can see if you look carefully, there's some surfers in the bottom there. And it's overlooking Tongs surf spot up to Diamond Head. 2 years ago, the Department of Education asked me to do a video, to narrate a video on surfing in Waikīkī. And they called this series Kai Piha. I agreed to do it. And the name of the particular video that I narrated is called Ma Waikīkī. So if any of you are interested in the video version of the PowerPoint presentation that you just saw, you can go online and look up either one, Kai Piha or Ma Waikīkī, and that'll take you right to it. So anyway, that's the end of my presentation, everybody. Thank you very much.
We're going to open for a few questions if any of you have them. We'll just turn on the lights here, and if you do have a question, just raise your hand and we'll bring the mic over to you, and you can ask questions to John or to Ian. So I'll start over there.
My name is Tim Kahanamoku. I'm an avid wakeboarder. The last set of screen or segment that you played with is the belly bags. My mom worked for the hotel. She made us 2 belly bags. So my cousin and I went out to Rio Beach, and we did it by the wall. Both my cousin and I. And then we also took it over to Maui. So it's fun. It's fun. So if you guys ever decide to get into a belly bag, go to the hotels. They have those thick sheets. thick sheets. And then have them get it sewn, double stitch, flip it over, you're good to go.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, what year was that? What year approximately, or what decade? Like 60s, 70s?
I think it was around the 60s.
The Popup and the belly bags and all of the stuff we've been looking at, they pretty much disappeared when Tom Morey invented the boogie board.
Yeah.
Once the boogie board showed up, the small wood boards disappeared and the belly bags disappeared. But thank you for contributing. That was great.
I'm an avid wakeboarder. I don't go onto boogie boards. Yeah, they just. No.
John, how long did the river riding Hey Pui Fly last?
Hey Pui Fly?
How long did a wave last? It only lasted a couple hours, right?
Oh, it only lasted until the river just flattened everything out. I mean, once the river runs, so if it takes an hour to drain, so to speak, drain the river behind, then it's gone. So that's why you saw everybody just packed around on both sides of the river, on both river banks, because they're trying to catch as many waves as they can before it just flattens out.
Is there any rule against that?
Any rule against river surfing? No, as far as I know, it's. Oh, you mean as far as?
Busting the berm.
As breaking the berm goes? No, I've never heard anybody complain about that officially. We've got a river historian in the audience. Don, where are you? Maybe Don's actually a historian on river surfing.
Yeah, I've actually done that thing at Waimea Bay, and some of the exploring on that I've gotten is the lifeguards discourage it until it's had a chance to build up a certain amount of water, and then they will allow the channel to be dug out. I've heard that before they mined the sand there at Waimea, where they went in and they removed all the sand and then some of beach erosion since then, the used to be a lot more difficult process because you had to dig out a lot more sand to get out into the ocean. And then, as John described, as that water drains from the tunnel, it widens the channel, and at a certain point the waves stop breaking. But they have versions of this in Germany, on the mainland. A lot of those waves are continuous. They never stop breaking. There are certain cities, Bend, Oregon, Boise, Idaho, that have installed ramps to be able to control the flow of the wave. And then, inner city areas that have revitalized because they changed the name of the bar from the longboard lounge, or from Meiji Moose to the longboard lounge. and they get a surf theme going, and they get a surf culture building, and yeah, it's become quite an international sport.
I'd just like to add, Don, thank you very much for that. I'd just like to add one other note to river surfing. Don just described that river surfing now is done internationally in, like in rivers in Germany, for example. And so when we think of Hawaii, surfing as Hawaii's gift to the world, we also need to think of river surfing as another surfing gift to the world from Hawaii. So Don, thank you for looking into all of this.
Any idea what the wave at Waimea would have looked like before they removed all the sand out of there?
Do you know where the jump rock is? Yeah. Okay, those of you that know Waimea Bay really well, if you're facing the ocean, there's a big rock on the left that the kids jump, or people jump off of. Anyway, under that rock, there's a hole, there's like a tunnel. And the sand used to go out all the way past the jump rock so that that tunnel was actually a cave. It was a dry cave that opened up on the beach sand. So the sand mining started in the 1930s. You know the tower over there on the right side of the bay? That was part of the quarry operation that was established in the 1930s. And all of that sand, all of the sand dunes got mined back so far that it cut it back to where the beach is today. Does that make sense? Okay.
I can add to that. So 1957, the first year that the modern surfers surfed Waimea Bay, Fred Van Dyke credits that to the wave not closing out, rather holding its size bigger because the bay had gotten deeper from the absence of the sand. But in the 1880s, there was a big mudslide that really brought down so much erosion from the newly cut sugarcane fields above that it had filled in the lower part of the valley. Go back further, when Vancouver's ship was in there, they could paddle up the river a half mile almost to the parking lot for the falls. So it was a very different, it's changed a lot over the years.
Just two things. That river in is this on? That river in Germany, it's called Eisbach, and it's in Munich, and it's very cold. And my second question is, where can you get your hands on one of those long Hawaiian wood surfboards?
I have an Airbnb experience, no. I feel for you. I do have a couple of boards that I made and that I ride regularly, especially at Kahana when it's breaking. You can find me down there. It is really phenomenal. It's challenging, and I need to make some more that might be more user-friendly, but I've had just the most incredible experiences riding a 14-foot long, 6.5-inch thick Olo board that's about 18 inches wide. It's quite an experience. And no fin, and you can imagine with a bearing hole or a rounded bottom, you lean on the left side to go right, so the modern bottom turn doesn't work. So it's a very different kind of surfing altogether. Give me a Paavo, we'll go surf.
I'm curious about the other types of surfing, like stand-up paddleboards or windsurfing. Is there any history of that being an ancient sport?
That's a good question. As far as I know, the first stand-up surfers appeared in the 1930s, and that's because Tom Blake invented the hollow board. All of the non-Hawaiian surfers, as soon as they got into the sport, they're constantly trying to make lighter and lighter boards, right? So they're using woods from the mainland, they're laminating, and Blake decides that he's going to make a hollow board. He makes a frame like he would for a boat, and then he puts plywood on the top and bottom. So that's the first surfboard that you could stand on in flat water without just sinking or falling off. And there's actually a photo of Kahanamoku in 1939, I think it is, on a hollowboard with a paddle. So that's where stand-up starts, and then World War II, of course, kind of stops everything. And then when you get into the 1950s, there's a small resurgence of stand-ups, and then it just took off to where it is today. Anyway, that's my understanding of stand-up anyway. Windsurfing,
I've seen some pictures actually crediting Tom Blake also with early windsurf boards. He's laying down on basically a racing paddle board with a rudder on the back, and he's holding a little sail and with a string pulling it in like that. But that's all I know. At the time that Robbie Nash became famous, it was Rick Nash had told me, his father had said that they had an opportunity to continue on professional surfing, which was already doing a lot there in the early 70s, or try this new professional sport, windsurfing. And they took that route, and Robbie became world champ.
Mr. Clark, I never had the opportunity. I saw that drone picture. Mr. Masterson, thank you guys for the invite. I saw that drone picture of Diamond Head. I figured I'd probably never have this opportunity with that good a picture. Can you pull it back and show me where Papa Ina is, please? There's like 2 or 3 ridge lines up there where I was kind of guessing, but I never knew which one was.
Papa Ina, I think you're referring to the Heiau?
Yeah.
Okay, Dillingham built his home on top of Papa Ina Heiau, and the Dillingham home is now, everybody? La Pietro.
Okay, thank you.
It was a lot easier to see, so that the Heiau he's referencing, Ka'aumanu, there was a famous day where she paddles out to lament the death of her lover who was sacrificed on the Heiau. And so she could actually surf at the spot Tongs out front and look upon Papa Ina. Kind of hard to do now. So we think it's higher in general. Everybody looks up, but it's right there.
Willy Wood, it's pretty soft and it's really light, I was wondering how it was used with the, with native Hawaiian surfboards or bodyboards, because it's so soft and easy to crack. Was it used in full pieces, or what's your understanding on that?
My understanding, Ian can jump in after me on this, but my understanding is Willy, for those of you that don't know, is like a native balsa. It's a very light and very porous wood, and it's almost sponge-like. It soaks water. So the Hawaiians tried to waterproof their boards. A coal wood is so dense you could oil it, but you didn't need to waterproof it. But they tried to waterproof Willy, but the bottom line was that it's still soaked wood, and they still had to bring it up on the beach or put it in a halau and let it dry out after each use.
Again, Tom Blake did so much research. He was really passionate when he got out here and started hanging out with Duke. He references a Willy board being buried in I mentioned the lipo, this idea of the life-giving ooze, the source, which is the mud of a kalo patch, right? It has plenty of oxygen and water, fresh water flowing through it. It's not lepo, it's not rotten. But to bury it in a spring near the freshwater source, near the taro patch, for a period of time, which I found to be maybe under a week, because the wood will start to fall apart, like you said. Pull it out, dry it, and all of that the sill, when it dries towards the inside, pulls it inside. And then that's when they take the kukui nut. And we think of it as the oil, but really when I make the roasted kukui nut paste, I pour the oil off and give it to my wife so she can use it for beauty things. And then I take the rest of the mash down beneath at the base, like it's like nut butter, like peanut butter, and rub that on. And kukui is candle nut, and put it on in the sun, really heats up. Does great with a blender when you put it in this, really heats up and creates almost a liquid that you can put on very thick, hundreds of kukui nuts thick. and it shellacs. When it dries, it shellacks and creates like lava lining of the bedding of your truck. The shell, you know, the kind of the chocolate you pour on and it gets all crispy, it creates a shell like that. Salt water preserves that. So after you surf it, you throw it on the sand and let it dry. And putting on the paste really helps to keep the water from getting in for a period of time. Fresh water touches it, it starts to rot and turn rancid. So that's why there's not many Willy boards left. You know, the wood was light as such. Well, that came from the mythology and understanding that Kamohoali'i, the shark god, his hands were black, and that was how Aukele Nui Aiku was told by the ancestress U named Ku'e Manu to make your hands black to reach down and get the waters of life. And I thought, why were his hands black? Well, he was the voyager. He was the Kanakamano. And so we got TV today, the kids watch that, but back then at the end of the day, you put the kukui nuts that you had the kids collect into the fire, the low roasting, and then in the morning you collect up the kukui nuts out of the ashes and you crack them and you make the thing. Your hands would always be black. He was always tending to his canoes because he was the voyager who brought Pele and Hi'iaka to Hawaii. That's how I figured that out, through the mythology.
Ian, you implied that the, sorry.
No, you were projecting beautifully.
You implied that the missionaries weren't real happy with surfing, and I read a pop history book recently where the writer actually said they banned surfing. I don't think they actually banned surfing, but they certainly discouraged it, and that was because, why? I think it was because they surfed naked, and maybe it was too much fun for them to handle. But what do you know about that? Could you elaborate on what you have heard about that?
I'll say a few things. I'm sure John may be able to help with that latter banning era. And I should preclude with, we cannot blame the missionaries for everything. They did great things. That's why we have the written language. That's why we have a million pages of Hawaiian written newspaper, because they wanted wanted the Hawaiian people to learn the Bible, and they translated for us. And we're forever grateful for that. But of course, in a very strict Puritan kind of religion that came here to Hawaii, the strain of Christianity and as such, yeah, it was for all those reasons it was looked upon as bad. But most importantly, work and worship, that was what was supposed to be done. Even like Earl Kava'a, Kumu Earl, he's one of the kupunas who does the board in stone. He says, I'm the youngest of 10 kids in Molokai family. If I went surfing, my older brothers had to do my chores for me, and then I'll get lickings. We never went surfing like that. There was protocol. It was really about work and worship. And so, you know, surfing, you could get hurt. You know, well, you could die. Worse, you could get hurt and be a burden on your family. You know, these kinds of things did not fit into the model of society. Just like the fact that, I mean, they came over here in all their clothes with all of their traditions, but those were all cold weather traditions. Too bad they didn't let go of that and all start getting naked and wearing malo. Because we would not be so hot during the day and have to use air conditioning. It would be much more sustainable. So we do have to look at it as just two different types, you know, a clash of two cultures, two different worldviews. And the politics of that, unfortunately, in, you know, well, you know, Moses Manu says, you know, in talking about weather lore and understanding the 400 types of clouds that are out there, says it is too bad that in this time, era of light, that we have let go of such knowledge and forgotten it, because it was associated with those old ways, which back then were wasn't one God. It was our ancestors. So, you know, we could build on that and build on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
If we're going to end, I'll say one last thing. Hi'iaka, the surfing chief of Waimea in the 1400s, when Hi'iaka passed by, he was doing two types of surfing. He'epu'eone and He'epu'ewai. He was a master of that.
Mahalo, mahalo to the surf professor, Ian Masterson, and his mentor, John Clark. We thank you, the honor that you shared your knowledge, your passion, your research with us. I think we'll stay back a little bit if you wanted to tell a little story. And thank you for those. Mahalo, everyone.